Alright everyone, so today I wanted to go over the top 5 best ways to use your stamina pots in 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross Global, and this is actually a perfect time to make a video like this because in just a few minutes actually at the time of me recording, we are going into the daily reset and we're going to be starting off the half stamina week, which of course is going to be starting off with the boss battles. However, the half stamina for boss battles is not going to be number 1 on the list here. And speaking of the order of the list, really important to say that the first things that I talk about are going to be the most important, and as I go on in the list, the last things are going to be less important than the things I talk about earlier. So if you are free to play or you have a very limited number of stamina potions, you want to prioritize the first things that I talk about. So let's jump into what is going to be number 1, and that is, of course, the half stamina Fort Solgris event. Now, this rolls around usually on the weekends, and it's actually usually the last event in the half stamina week. Now, it's really important because this stamina event is only actually 48 hours. So you have a very limited window. It does repeat though every 2 weeks usually is when it comes back. Not guaranteed though, they might end up making some adjustments, so don't always count on it, but it's been pretty consistent to be every 2 weeks. And when you actually do get the opportunity to run Fort Solgris half stamina, you really want to prioritize books. And most importantly, you want to probably prioritize red books. And the reason why is because building a team to be able to farm the red book stage in as quick of a time period as possible is going to be your best option. Now, if you want to farm other books just because you actually need those books, or you want to farm enhancement potions, that's totally fine. The reason why you'll hear a lot of people, including myself, talk about red books specifically is because of that gimmick capability of being able to use Gia to get it to a 3-turn run, which is going to allow you to get as many of those runs in as possible during that 48-hour time period where you can run for half stamina. So I have an entire video on the channel from a couple of days ago where I actually get into the exact details of how to build a 3-turn red book farming team. So if you guys want more information about that, feel free to check it out. But we're going to move on to some other stuff here. This is really important though, like easily number 1. If you're free to play and you have a very limited number of stamina pots, this is absolutely where you want to put them to use. And you really should never feel bad about burning through tons of stamina pots because you're going to get a lot of gold from farming these books. And just to give you an idea here, if you do get to the point where you can build a 3-turn run and you farm for pretty much the entire 48 hours, you're easily looking at 40 to 50 million or so gold. So now let's move on to number 2 here. Now, number 2 is actually usually the first half stamina event that we get in that week-long rotation, and the one that we're going to be getting in just a couple of minutes here, and that is the half stamina boss battles. Now, boss battles are absolutely fantastic for many different reasons. First of all, typically the half stamina event for boss battles is actually the one that lasts for 3 days instead of 2 days, because the half stamina week is usually a full week long, and then we have a week without half stamina. We've got an event that's 3 days, and then the other 2 events are 2 days. And boss battles are typically the event that is 3 days. That's just one of the reasons why it's awesome. Another reason why is when it comes to boss battles, you are not just going to be farming gold here. Like books and Fort Solgris is obviously incredibly important, but it's primarily for gold. Boss battles, there's actually 3 purposes to farming this. One of them, of course, is going to be gold, and you get a lot of gold just from the base completion, which is why it's also really important when you are farming, you want to make sure to use your gold foods, because this is going to double the base gold that you get from 6,000 to 12,000 on Extreme. Now, the other reasons why this is absolutely awesome is because you're also going to get the chalices that you need to awaken, very, very important. And you're also going to get the SSR runes. And even if you don't actually need runes yourself for equipment, these are going to stockpile like crazy by farming this event. And you'll be able to actually just salvage them in order to get salvage materials as well. So truly a farming run with many different purposes. And the fact that it lasts 3 days as well to boot is going to make it number 2 on the priority list for using your stamina potions. Just remember, though, that it isn't number 1. Gold is still going to be number 1. Fort Solgris Red Book. So if you are limited, make sure that unless you're like in desperate need of chalices, I'm not saying like never use your limited potions on boss runs. But as a generalization here, you want to prioritize red books, gold over boss battles. Again, unless you need very specific items, that's a whole different story right there, though. All right, next up, we're going to move on to number 3 here, and it is the last of the half stamina events, and that is the free quests. Now, free quests are twofold in terms of their purposes. And one of them is obviously to go around and actually farm the gear. Just make sure that when you do go and farm the gear, that you pick up the actual quest as well, because that's going to be how you actually get most of the gear. And the quest is going to be a repeatable by clearing the actual village friendship. You'll get the steady effort series. It has you go around and actually clear 8 runs, get 1 piece of guaranteed gear, then go to the next one, and you have to go through it in a rotation right there. But this is huge. It's going to be the primary way that you actually get gear, considering that the actual drop rate of the SSR items itself is only 3%. So this has a downside to it, because unfortunately 8 runs at a time, you're not going to be able to step away or AFK for a very long period of time. So keep that in mind. Now, if you don't need gear or you're all farmed out for your gear, that's totally fine. There's another great purpose for the half stamina for free quests, and that is actually farming food. Free quests aren't just the gear quests, they're also the cooking quests as well. And this one is great because you can AFK a lot easier. Just make sure that you lean towards farming the easier difficulty in terms of what you get out of it versus the resources that you put into it. It's going to be the best one. And also, it's generally the easiest one in order to farm super quickly and efficiently. In fact, I would even recommend, like, if you leave this on overnight, auto, whatever, you don't even have to use a full team. This is what I have my team 3 slot for here is, I'll just leave Hauser on. He doesn't even need to be super well geared because it's, a 13,000 CC quest, and he'll be able to one-shot everything and clear it over and over and over overnight for just 2 stamina per run. So that's kind of the second purpose right there. And I would say, as you play more and more and accumulate more gear, complete more of your gear sets, you'll probably lean towards farming food, maybe a bit more than you'll lean towards farming gear. But gear is probably going to be a higher priority on what to farm as you are earlier into the game. Now, another thing is make sure to take advantage of the half stamina free quests in order to farm any kind of materials that you might need if you don't want to buy them all from the actual vendors in the villages, or if you just need so many of them that the limit of 5 per day is just not going to cover you. Same thing with the boss battles as well, don't just farm the easiest boss battle during the half stamina one, which for most people is probably going to be chapter 2, but take it as an opportunity when you're not AFK to go and spread yourself to maybe several of the different boss battles and fight them a decent number of times just to actually accumulate the materials. You do have to keep in mind, though, that for the boss battles, you're only actually going to get 3 out of the 6 materials from that chapter from the boss battle. The other 3, you'll actually have to go and do the other free quests. So 3 out of the 5 things I'm talking about are, of course, the half stamina events, but there's still 2 other things that I want to talk about when it comes to your priority for stamina potions. And number 4 out of 5 on the list is going to be time-limited events if you have a restricted schedule and you aren't going to be able to really fully clear the event or get all the rewards with the natural stamina that you have. Now, for some people, if you're able to play and you have access to the game all day long, you might not necessarily have to worry about that, but I know a lot of people, including myself a lot of the times, we're not actually able to play all day long, or we have limited time windows where the amount of stamina that we get, the access to the game at certain hours is not going to be able enough to clear out a lot of event shops. And this is really important with the final boss fight for Gother coming up really soon here as well. So plan it out. When in doubt, plan it out. I know that rhymes and it's kind of corny, but it'll really help you out in the long term. Is make sure that, worst case scenario, don't miss out on really valuable exclusive items that you can only get during limited events. Better to use a couple of stamina potions, even though you might want to save them, for Fort Solgris. Get that stuff, and then you won't have to have it bothering you like crazy like it does for so many people who miss out on exclusive event shop items. So that's number 4. And number 5 is your boss battles deathmatch, even when there is no half stamina event. And again, this is really mostly for people with a restricted schedule. So, if you can't really be the first one to join friends' boss battles, their death matches, and this is really the only way that you're going to be able to get your ingredients and your materials to limit break your units, you know, this is obviously a pretty important part of the game. It is also a very time-consuming part of the game. A huge chunk of my daily list of things to do is actually just going through and clearing boss battles, but it also takes a lot of stamina. So, you know, if you need to get these materials and your schedule, the restricted play that you have in the game doesn't really line up, you know, it's okay to use some stamina potions to kind of clear out some of these boss battles and get some of the ingredients. But just keep in mind that this was number 5 on my list. So there's still 4 other things that you probably want to prioritize your stamina pots on before you consider this kind of option right here. And then everything else, you know, you can always use stamina pots on things that you want to. It's totally up to you. Don't let any kind of list, YouTube video, guides, or anybody tell you what to do to enjoy the game. That's always going to be the number 1 priority. So, you know, this was just kind of a recommendation list if you want to be as efficient as possible. But, you know, do what is going to bring you the most enjoyment in the game. That's the most important thing. So, hey, speaking of that, there is the actual maintenance right there. And we just started the half stamina event week. So I'm actually going to end the video here and get to work on farming for that. So if you guys enjoyed and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a quick like as well. It means more than you can imagine. So thank you so much to all of you who decide to do that. And more 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross Global videos should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out. But if not, until next time, take care, everyone. And this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.